Hello again, and welcome back to Video Don't Worry About the Government, the video adjunct to Don't Worry About the Government, the podcast you can find on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify, and you can see full episodes of Don't Worry About the Government by going to patreon.com/DWATG. All right, I've got the plug section out of the way here, so let's get into it. This is the first of several videos today. First and foremost, I want to thank people for feedback on the last episode of Don't Worry About the Government. I was trying to use Twitch's stream functionality, but what happened, as many of you identified, is that whenever I would go to something like the Real Clear Politics map, it would create all this lagging and skipping and syncing with the audio issues. I'm not really sure the best way around that using Twitch, so we may try things like Zoom in the future for screen shared based things. And in the interim, I have a perfectly fine Spartan video creation software here. It's just there's no special fancy effects or anything for me to deploy here other than the weird standard Apple fish lens stuff. And that, this is a politics show. We don't really need fish lens. Do we need fish lens? I don't feel like we need fish lens. All right, so let's get into the big thing that I wanted to talk to you about today. Today being 10 a.m. on Election Day. And this is for the handful of people who maybe listen to the show or who have friends who are in this cohort. This is for the people who are thinking about third-party politics still, who are left of center, but disaffected with the Democratic Party. I want to make my final pitch to you that this election truly is different, even by the standards that many of us have come to know in third-party politics. So, a little history about myself. A lot of people assume that I'm dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. I actually grew up and was originally first registered as a libertarian. The early run of the show was all about trying to build out third-party politics, and it was only when I became bitter and frustrated with that after the Restore the Fourth rally, following the WikiLeaks releases of all of the stuff involving the NSA, that I realized that third-party politics in this country was basically a fruitless endeavor, and that the vehicle of change for left-of-center politics is the Democratic Party. This is to say that I am not a Democrat so much as I am a sworn enemy of conservatism and of the Republican Party, and to that point, I feel like the best vehicle for that war is the Democratic Party. Does not mean I'm going to cheerlead on everyone in the Democratic Party. Not even really thrilled that the Democratic Party necessarily has to be this vehicle. But, and we've discussed this at length on the podcast, go and subscribe to that. Third-party politics in this country just is not in a state to really fight conservatism. And you can look at the issues that the Democratic Party is having during this election cycle with votes being counted and that sort of thing, and you can only imagine the type of pushback that third-party politics would need to mount in order to do that. And then we can talk about climate change and how the clock is ticking, and we might be out of time for a third-party movement. The best and last chance for really getting change to happen is probably going to be through the Democratic Party. So that's just a little bit of background on me and where I'm coming from with politics these days, and encapsulating 10 years of political thinking in probably about 90 seconds here. But I want to make things a little bit more clear for you. So you're probably thinking, you probably finished the primaries the way I did, going, holy crap, 22 candidates, and Joe Biden is the guy. Granted, he's not light bulb head John Delaney. There were some other stinkers in there. Seth Moulton would have been great. Wouldn't have loved Amy Klobuchar, but Joe Biden's pretty disappointing. Let's keep it real here. And especially if you are someone who believed that maybe 4 years of Trump would result in a more liberal, left-of-center Democratic nominee, and heard people making those sorts of arguments 4 years ago, this was probably not how you had things playing out. You also probably didn't have on your bingo sheet a body count in the United States that would make the Iraq War's body count blush, especially in the first year of U.S. citizens. I mean, we can scale the number of deaths from the coronavirus in 9 months in the context of multiple Vietnams. This was probably not on your bingo card either. And, you know, if you thought maybe we could nudge society along a little bit here, probably weren't thinking about doing that with a body count of a couple 100,000, right? Like, I mean, I get it. Look, politics is hard to predict. Talking to a guy who thought that Trump maybe wouldn't last the first year. I get some predictions right. I've gotten some predictions wrong. I get how it goes. I'm keeping it real here. So I want to make this not about Trump and Biden for you. I think that maybe Trump and Biden can be obfuscatory. This is just a fancy way of saying throw up a little bit of smoke. Trump sometimes scans as this anti-establishment figure who's going to drain the swamp. But, like, we know the swamp hasn't been drained. And Joe Biden's basically, like, the person who's worried about governmental corruption's nightmare. 47 years in politics, completely an establishment guy. He was chosen for Barack Obama to be his vice president back in 2008 as a way of moderating and tempering Barack Obama. Like, if you know the history of Joe Biden, you know that change agent, definitely not his thing. However, he is going to be a change agent, and let me explain to you how. Don't think about this as Biden versus Trump. It can be confusing. This is a choice between Scott Atlas and Anthony Fauci and Deborah Birx. Now, the Democrats want you to think that Trump's Scott Atlas, and he is. So, like, don't get confused here. Trump is Scott Atlas. Ronnie Jackson, Scott Atlas. We've seen the type of medical professionals time and again that Donald Trump goes to. That crazy guy with the hair, those are the doctors Trump goes to, and we need doctors right now. Joe Biden, to his credit, said yesterday he's going to hire Anthony Fauci. And there's no reason not to doubt him. And even if you're cynical about the Democrats, they're no worse than Deborah Birx, who's now even seen so much that she's realized that her trade-offs to be in the room are maybe not worth it, because Scott Atlas went on Russian state-funded propaganda this weekend and spread public health misinformation about the coronavirus. And this guy's quickly being elevated to the tippy top, as Trump might put it, of the coronavirus task force, such as it exists anymore. Remember, Trump's dismantled large parts of it. Trump's whole plan, should he get reelected today, and this is your last day to do anything about it, his whole plan is to ignore this. And so you can say, perhaps, oh, I don't want to have the blood of the Republican Party and the Democratic Party on my hands. And to that, I want to end it with a little bit of religion. I know, it's weird coming from me. Not a particularly religious guy, but there's some moments from my childhood that have stuck with me all my life and have actually kind of informed the way I think about morality. And one of the stories from the Bible that actually sticks with me is the story, obviously during Jesus' death here, involving Pontius Pilate. And when I was younger, way younger, I remember not understanding why Pontius Pilate was a bad person. Because, again, this is 8-year-old Chris here. I thought, well, like, he had a trial. He followed the rules of the state. He put it up to the people, and it was the people who were wrong. But what my grandfather explained to me, one of the many fantastic lessons my grandfather, who I love so dearly, left with me, is that Pilate did do a bad thing. And the reason it's bad is because he could see the objectively right choice between Jesus Christ and Barabbas and chose to throw his hands up and act as though he was neutral on this moving train. So what I want to encourage you, my third-party voting friend, this time to consider is that it's not that Joe Biden is the protagonist in that story, but Trump is Barabbas. He is 100% Barabbas. And if you want to, make Joe Biden, whatever you want to make, a regular citizen in Jerusalem. Yeah, the choice between the regular Joe and Barabbas, it's pretty darn clear. So if you haven't gone out and voted today, please go and vote. They say if voting changed anything, they'd make it illegal. Well, apparently it does change things because they're trying to do that in Harris County in my fair state of Texas. Go and do your part. Don't be neutral, because being neutral is in fact making a value judgment. Or put more succinctly by the musical group Rush, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. And if you're online today and the lines are going long, please get at me. My Twitter account's at Chris Novembrino. I will chat with you all day while you're waiting in line to vote. Let's go do this thing.